we have a responsibility to foster sharpness of thinking. How can we do that? Some subjects lend themselves more to that than others. Let's take mathematics, probably the closest we come to pure thinking. And if one in a Waldorf school teaches geometry, there's quite a lot of geometry taught in the Waldorf school. Let's say you're in a sophomore class, you teach Euclidean geometry. It's the geometry of one plane, two-dimensional geometry. And as you may or may not know, it's based on the work that Euclid did 2,000 years ago, gathering the wisdom of the time, what was known. And based on some postulates, one practices then logical thinking in the 10th grade, very important, sequential thinking. I can only be sure of something if it's a watertight proof. But does that mean thinking stops there? If one looks at the history of mankind and what mathematicians have done, they've come to various points where assumptions have been swept away. We know that's true of the number 0. We know that's true of negative numbers. We know it's also true of imaginary numbers. And once you accept that possibility, then the field is wide open. And that is why one would actually, with juniors, present imaginary numbers. You can't understand them if it's just linear. You need to work in a more complex paradigm of thinking. You stretch their thinking. Back to geometry, there you are with the sophomores, with the Euclidean postulates. You say something like, well, parallel lines don't meet. But then you entertain the possibility with the 11th graders in the junior class of just in your imagination thinking about creating a picture of a common source for two lines that appear to be here to be parallel, but that they have a common source somewhere at infinity. Once you entertain that thought, one creates a totally different geometry. And that's what we do. With the 11th graders, we introduce them to projective geometry such that we create in space a weaving pattern of hexagons, and it doesn't matter where you look at them. Your standpoint, of course, affects it, but you can always draw that picture in space, sweeping off into infinity. There is no limit to what you can think. And for a 17-year-old junior at high school to take that thought and go with it and truly experience it, because the one essence of Waldorf education is that everything should be experienced really, and not just an intellectual concept that's so abstract you cannot connect with it. Once you allow that possibility, then there is no limit to what you can think as a human being.